Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a set of sources you sent over, all looking at bias on Reddit.
Right, and specifically how that bias might be, well, shaping how you see the world.
Exactly. News consumption has shifted so much away from traditional media, more towards these online platforms with user-generated stuff.
So understanding bias there is really crucial.
Our mission then, for this deep dive, unpack the kinds of biases found on Reddit, look at how they get amplified, and figure out what that means for you.
Okay, so first off, what biases are we actually seeing in these sources?
They point to a few key types, don't they? Political, gender.
And coverage bias, yeah. And it's not just a feeling, they actually put numbers on it.
The political numbers are quite something.
They really are. One study looking at millions of comments put the average user at 58 out of 100 on a Republican to Democrat scale, 100 being most Democrat.
And the moderators.
Even further left, on average 62. And another study, just a snapshot of top posts, found, get this, 99.1% of the political content had a pro-left or anti-right slant.
Wow, 99.1%. So if Reddit's your main political window, you're getting a very specific view.
Overwhelmingly. But it's not just politics, as you said, there's gender bias too.
Ah, yes, the study about how similar behaviors are described.
Exactly. One found that men described in messaging other situations got 1,367% more negative sentiment in the language used than women doing similar things.
1,300%, that's enormous.
It is, and we also see things like female politicians being talked about by appearance, while men get discussed based on their job or skills. It's a pattern.
And then coverage bias. That's about what even makes it to the top.
Right. It's algorithm-driven. Content that sparks a lot of engagement, often controversy or arguments gets pushed up.
So some topics get huge attention, maybe more than they warrant objectively, just because they cause a stir.
Precisely. Because they generate clicks, comments, upvotes, engagement.
Okay, so it's not just about who uses Reddit. The platform itself, its mechanics, seem to turn up the volume on these biases. How does that work?
Yeah, this is key. The sources talk about a shift in the algorithm. It used to be more about showing you stuff from communities you liked.
And now?
Now it's more about engagement across the whole site. And the goal seems to be maximizing interaction for revenue, basically.
And that sometimes means promoting conflict.
One source literally used the phrase aggressively infuriating users. The idea being that upsetting content drives views.
Aggressively infuriating.
Yeah.
That paints a picture. And what about the upvote and downvote system? That's for quality, right?
Supposedly. But, it often just becomes a like or dislike button, or agree, disagree.
The relevant stuff, if it's unpopular in a particular group, just gets buried.
It can, yeah, which pushes towards conformity, helps build those echo chambers.
And the volunteer moderators, they play a big role too.
A huge role. And research suggests, that comments going against a moderator's own political views might be more likely to get removed.
So with limited oversight and rules being kind of subjective,
it can lead to what some sources call a tyranny of the volunteer. Basically, you get these ideologically very uniform spaces because dissent gets moderated out, sometimes arbitrarily.
Okay, so let's piece this together. You've got users and mods with biases, an algorithm potentially boosting controversy for engagement, a voting system that can suppress dissent, and potentially biased moderation. What's the end result for you, the listener, scrolling through Reddit?
The sources suggest it creates these manipulated realities. If Reddit is where you spend a lot of time getting information,
your view of what's normal or widely believed could get seriously skewed.
And profoundly distorted, yes. You're sort of insulated from views that really challenge your own bubble and makes critical thinking harder.
And does it go further? Any mention of more extreme effects?
Some sources do note that the way certain content, maybe more extremist stuff, gets amplified could potentially play a role in radicalization, especially in spaces with less active moderation.
Now, Reddit does have policies. They talk about moderation, they have platform staff, transparency reports. How does that square with these findings?
They do have that framework, absolutely. User voting, volunteer mods, their own paid staff, and they publish reports on actions taken.
Yeah.
But the user feedback and the studies highlighted in these sources, they suggest there's still a big challenge in actually fostering genuine diversity of thought. Complaints about bias moderation, rules applied unevenly. They keep coming up.
So there's a tension between allowing free speech and stopping harmful content, especially when enforcement isn't always consistent.
Exactly that tension.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, It seems clear from your sources that bias on Reddit is, well, it's real, it's measurable, and it's amplified by the system itself, the design, the users, the moderation.
It really shows how platforms built for connection can end up creating these quite fragmented, curated realities. Not always objective, not always balanced.
And what this means for you is that navigating this online world, especially Reddit, takes real conscious effort. Just relying on it, it can narrow your views significantly.
Diversifying where you get your information is so important. And being critical, realizing that feed is, as one source put it, a manipulated reality.
Shaped by algorithms chasing engagement,
Yeah.
often by provoking you, maybe.
Yes. So you need to actively seek out other viewpoints, maybe stuff outside your usual digital haunts.
Definitely. So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. If the system is designed to show you what keeps you clicking, maybe even by making you angry, how much of what you see online reflects a balanced reality versus how much is just a feedback loop built to keep your eyes on the screen? Something to think about next time you're scrolling.